Senator Pete Ricketts joining us on the Rural Radio Network. You had an opportunity to visit the fair and talk issues, many of them of importance to Nebraska agriculture.
Yeah, we did our Federal Issues Forum. We did this last year as well. This year we invited in Lee Zeldin, who's the EPA administrator, and Senator John Barrasso from Wyoming. And so we talked about some of the things that are going on at the EPA and how that impacts agriculture. Obviously, it's our state's #1 industry. 1 in 4 jobs are tied to agriculture. So the EPA has a big impact on how farmers and ranchers will be able to do their job. We talked about things like waters of the U.S. and the proposed new rule on that will help protect private property rights. We talked about renewable fuels, our biofuels. That's really going to be important for Nebraska, especially when we've got a bumper crop like we got this year. We need to find a place to use those grains, and ethanol and biodiesel and renewable diesel are all really great opportunities for that. So we talked about that. And then we also talked about the One Big Beautiful Bill and all the things that are going to benefit Nebraska families in that, but also the parts that are really great for Nebraska agriculture. So it's a great conversation.
Yeah, there's some tax provisions in there that I've heard from a lot of producers say. I just talked with Craig Uden, incoming president of Nebraska Economist, says, hey, that One Big Beautiful Bill, the reconciliation bill, those tax provisions can really make or break some producers.
It is actually going to be really fantastic. There's really kind of some key things that are in there for agriculture. First of all, reference pricing has gotten updated for the first time in 11 years. That's a big deal for our producers here in the state. The second thing is that we address the death tax. We make it permanent. We actually index it to inflation. That's huge to be able to make sure we can pass the family farm and ranch on to the next generation. In fact, here in Nebraska, over 80% of our farms are family farms. And if you look nationally, this will mean that $200 billion of farm and ranch assets will go to the next generation and not to the federal government. So that's a really big deal. We also have provisions where we're putting more money into the FMD program and the MAP programs, doubling the amount actually, about $285 million in total to go to trade promotion. And again, when we're talking about corn prices are where they are and where producers are having a hard time. I mean, you hear it all the time. Go talk to everybody. Farmers are having a hard time this year. The cow-calf folks are doing pretty good, but farmers are really struggling. We got to find places to put our corn and soybeans. One is through biofuels. The other is selling it overseas. So having double the amount of money for trade promotion is really going to be important as far as all that goes. So some really key things that are in this One Big Beautiful Bill that will help us grow agriculture here in Nebraska.
Let's come back to ethanol in a moment, but now that we've got that One Big Beautiful Bill done, a number of farm bill provisions were included, but there are still some farm bill programs that need to be funded.
Yeah, we still want to do more. We still need a farm bill. And I know that Senator Bozeman, who's the chair of that committee, is working on that. Obviously, the current farm bill extension is supposed to expire at the end of September. The question is, will we be able to get enough Democrat votes to be able to get something passed? As you know, 85% of the, quote, farm bill is actually the food stamp program. So there is an opportunity there to be able to work with Democrats because they have an interest in some of this stuff, to be the food stamp stuff specifically. So when we get back to D.C. next week, we'll have to dig into that and see what the appetite is from the Democrats. Because if you go back to the last few years where the Democrats were in charge of the Senate and the Ag Committee, they basically weren't able to come to an agreement on what was going on. We'll go back and try again here as we go into the September to see if we can't find some common ground.
And you've had some really innovative ideas in terms of how we should reform SNAP. Would you like to see some more discussions along those lines?
Yeah, here in Nebraska, we did the SNAP Next Step, which was basically offering our job coaches in the Department of Labor to our families on food stamps to help them get better jobs. It worked wonderfully well for those families. We increased their income by thousands of dollars, helped many of those families get off of food stamps. I've got a bipartisan bill with Kirsten Gillibrand from New York to do the same thing at the federal level. There's lots of opportunities to be able to help people get into better jobs to reduce or eliminate their need for food stamps. And really, that's what our program should be about. It should be helping people get that hand up, helping them really get better jobs so that they can reduce their reliance on these entitlement programs and not trapping them into a life of government dependence.
Let's talk about biofuels. You certainly have been an ethanol champion throughout your role as governor and now into the U.S. Senate. I know Senator Fisher and Congressman Smith have kind of taken the lead, but certainly I would imagine you are in support of year-round nationwide E15, right?
Absolutely. So when we talk about, again, we're looking at how hard it is for our farmers right now with regard to where corn and soybean prices are. One of the things that we can do to really help out our corn farmers is E15 all year round. Again, we're looking at creating greater demand for the corn that we raise. E15 all year round is a way that we can create that very quickly. So that's an important thing to try and get done. As you mentioned, Senator Fisher's been leading that. She's been doing it now for 10 years. We came very close last December into passing it. We need to keep pushing to be able to get that done. I've also got a number of other bills that will help with this. For example, my renewable fuels for ocean-going vessels would create the same sort of incentives and so forth for cargo vessels that you get right now, for example, for putting ethanol in your fuel tank. So we can look for ways to continue to expand that. Sustainable aviation fuel is another, probably a little bit further down the road, but there's other things we can do. But this is really going to be key for our farmers, especially over the next couple of years. We got to be able to create more demand. Biofuels is one of the ways that we can do it, and E15 all year round will be an immediate impact on doing that.
That's Senator Pete Ricketts joining us at the Nebraska State Fair.